Did you know that a man literally got possessed and was able to summon rain? Yeah, you heard me right. His name was Donald Decker, and this is his story. It all starts with the death of his abusive grandfather. Decker was in prison at the time at the age of 21 years old and was let out for 7 days on furlough to be with his family and attend the funeral. He saw the funeral as a great chance to find peace from the past and move on from the trauma that his grandfather caused him. And as the casket was going down into the ground, he thought to himself, wow, this chapter in my life is really over. But little did he know, it was just getting started. Things were about to get really, really strange for Donald Decker. He was staying with his friends Bob and Jeannie Kiefer, and at dinner after the funeral, Decker began to feel really, really ill. The Kiefers suggested that he go upstairs and turn in for the night, but he excused himself to the bathroom. And that's when it started. The temperature in the bathroom suddenly dropped below freezing, and Decker felt scratching pain on his arm and watched as 3 bloody marks appeared. He walked out of the bathroom, and the best way that his friends could describe him was as being in a comatose or trance-like state. Physical touch, spoken words, nothing worked to break Decker out of this weird trance he suddenly fell into. And it started. It began with water dripping down the walls and then a cool mist forming around Decker on the floor. And then it started raining, one droplet at a time, until inside the Keeper's house, it was raining. Needless to say, they freaked out and called their landlord, who arrived and said, "This isn't a plumbing issue. You're in the front of the house. There are no pipes here." So immediately, the police were called. Donald Decker got possessed, and he was known as the Rain Man. Well, things started to get really, really strange after the landlord called the police. The police said, "It really is raining in here," because it was. It was raining inside of a house. And they said, "Okay, Keepers, Decker, you're gonna go to a restaurant, get some air, figure out what's going on." As soon as Decker left the property, the rain stopped. It was the oddest thing. Well, Decker, who was now out of his trance, and the Kiefers ended up at Pam Scrufano's restaurant, and she insisted that Decker was possessed by something very sinister and evil. And again, like a light was switched in his brain, Decker went back into a trance-like state. And that's when the rain started in Pam's restaurant. Pam was completely freaked out, as anyone would be. She rushed into her office and grabbed a crucifix and placed it onto Decker, who seemed to have been burnt by it and recoiled back. That's how horror movies start. I don't know about you guys, but I would have noped right out of that restaurant and left Decker to be possessed on his own. But for some reason, the Keepers brought Decker back to their house, and the landlord started yelling at them, saying, "You're damaging my property on purpose. What is wrong with you?" This is when Decker lifts into the air and flies backwards into one of the police officers. He lands on top of the crucifix that the officer was wearing and burns himself again. At this point, every official involved was like, "This is way past my pay grade. Let's call our chief." The chief did not believe them that any of this was going on and ordered everyone to stay away from Decker and stay away from the scene. He thought that they were just making all of this up and it was all fake and fictional, which I don't blame him. It sounds fictional. The possession of Donald Decker gave him the name the Rain Man for very specific reasons. So after the police chief told everyone to leave and not to return back, even if 911 was called, a few lone officers who were curious about the incident returned. It was a good thing they did, because Decker was in a horrendous state. He had claw marks all over his neck, and as soon as they showed up, he was again picked up into the air and thrown back violently. Eventually, a priest was called, and after copious amounts of prayer and whatever else priests do, he seemed to heal a little bit and was able to go back to prison after his 7-day furlough. But it doesn't end there. Even though he was no longer possessed, Decker found that he could still summon rain if he concentrated hard enough. He was already back in prison when he discovered this, and he told people, he told everyone, and the guards mocked him, and they were like, you can't really summon rain, but just for it, we're going to bring you to the warden's office. And they all began to taunt him and tell him, well, if you can really summon rain, then do it. Because, of course, everyone had heard the story about what happened when he went to the keeper's house. And he did it. Suddenly, the guards and the warden in the warden's own office were drenched through with water. No one doubted him after that. To this day, Decker adamantly believes that it was his grandfather that possessed him, coming back from beyond the grave to abuse him more. Isn't that wonderful? Well, I believe it. What do you guys think really happened? Was Donald Decker, the Rain Man, really possessed, or was something a little more peculiar at play here? Let me know in the comments.